I know you don't take warm water, but we ran out of
It's okay.
the room temperature, so we can open it a bit.
No worries. I'm not going to hold it against you.
Oh, thank you. You're so kind.
Happens just like
Without promotion, should you have so?
Sorry?
What to tell you that the shop was open?
Shop like
CI shop.
CI shop. Well, now that I know what the key code is, I can just kind of shoplift.
There's a shopkeeper that just coming back in.
All right, we'll start in a minute.
So I just print and not text. This is transcript short stuff. I'm going to Sorry.
It's okay. All right.
Okay, I'll check with her. I mean, I just need to print, and but does that mean, does it print from USB? Because that's where my stuff goes to, that's why I use the one down there. Library. I don't know. The teacher's meeting? I just need to look at the.
It's all right.
Sorry, I didn't know.
I did not crack a whip, so it's okay. No, it's all right. It's all right. All right. I preached here one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling at the Masavajas mountains in Rajgiri together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. The Bhagavan was absorbed in consideration called profound perception. Also at that time, Safa Mahasafa Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the found perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasafa Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage trained to wish activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasafa Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wish of practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom shall go upon like this correctly and repeatedly, beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, composition factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra likewise are emptiness without characteristics, produced and ceased, stainless, not without stains, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition of factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. And no opinion, including mind element, no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, Bodhisattvas rely and dwell in the perfection of wisdom. The mind without obscuration and without fear, having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of Nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times also manifestly completely awakened to the unsurpassable path of complete enlightenment, in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. For the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of the great knowledge, the most vast mantra, the mantra that equals the unequal, mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it is not false. Of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata om gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. The one rose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva. I will look at this verse. Well said, son of the lineage. It is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated, even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the worlds of fools, Suras and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Chandatsoki Chanamba, Chanchu Badi Dani Kamsuchi, Dagi Chushegi Betsonangi, Drola Penshi Sangi Dropa Chandatsoki Chanamba, Chanchu Badi Dani Kamsuchi, Dagi Chushegi Betsonangi, Drola Penshi Sangi Dropa Chandatsoki Chanamba, Chanchu Badi Dani Kamsuchi, Dagi Chushegi Betsonangi, Drola Penshi Sangi Dropa. Hi. All right. Sorry for being delayed for a minute. What I wanted to do today was to have a lot of discussion about conventional bodhicitta, conventional manner of enlightenment, and to also to mention what the ultimate manner of enlightenment is. Jane sent a question in Geshe-la's session, which I said I'm going to address in the afternoon session, but I kind of lost the question because I closed the previous meeting. So Jen, if you still have the question and you can paste it on the chat, that would be great. You have another question here on the chat, so that's also good. Sorry? All right, so you might have covered it in the discussion. So let's see. So also, there were a couple of questions that that came from Chris and from Alan that I read through in the morning session. So they actually came through the mail system, not in the chat. They came through the mail, so that's why other people at home did not see these questions. I should have actually shared the screen with my email reader. So apologies for that. I'll try to remember to do it next time round. But anyway, since that there's still, I think, some confusion. I don't know if a lot of confusion, but some confusion with respect to bodhicitta, what the 2 aspirations are, where do they fit, what it is, what's the distinction between conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta, and so forth. So this is what I wanted to do today. I think that with respect to engaging and inspiring bodhicitta, I think that we have some clarity. We just need to develop clarity with respect to what bodhicitta is. So So first of all, I'll address this question, the first question that James posted today, because this is easier to answer. Can you overcome self-cherishing by using bodhicitta? Yes. So the question is yes, particularly when you look at bodhicitta from the viewpoint of what it abandons. So it is said that bodhicitta, in order to attain uncontrived bodhicitta, you need to abandon self-cherishing. So in that sense, you can say that the more you develop the intention to be of benefit to others, the self-cherishing becomes smaller and smaller. So yesterday, I spoke of a chart, and I'll put it on the screen in a second. I think it was this, all right? Sorry. So I spoke about the chart explaining the great vehicle path. And I said that milestone number 2, which marks the beginning of the 5 paths, beginning with the path of accumulation. So entering into the Mahayana path, entering into the Mahayana path of accumulation is done through generating uncontrived mind of enlightenment. Here it says renunciation and mind of enlightenment, but the main thing is generating an uncontrived mind of enlightenment. That's the beginning of the Mahayana path. So it is said that, at least this is according to, it seems probably a prevalent view in Sergio Monastery, I'm not sure, but we've heard it from a few of our teachers before, and they came from Serache Monastery. So it seems that their view is that once you enter into the Mahayana path of accumulation, you have abandoned self-cherishing. So currently we haven't entered the Mahayana path of accumulation. And speaking at least for myself, of course, I can say that I don't know your mind, I don't know what your current status of progression, but I assume that many of us are still working on developing uncontrived bodhicitta. So currently we use the 7-fold cause and effect personal instructions. We meditate on equalizing and exchanging self with others, and we reduce a degree of self-cherishing. Once you enter into the Mahayana path of accumulation, it is said that you have overcome self-cherishing. Now, self-cherishing is not an object of abandonment in a sense that it is not the wrong consciousness that you abandon together with the seeds. So it seems that the way that you abandon it is through suppressing it, reducing the power until it is, I guess, no longer there. In this sense, you have abandoned it. One thing that Geshe-la spoke of today in relation to a question that was asked was whether there are conditions that could contribute to losing the mind of enlightenment or the mind of enlightenment degenerating. So when you enter into the path of accumulation, you do that through generating uncontrived bodhicitta, uncontrived mind of enlightenment. Remember that the meaning of uncontrived is that a cost effort is no longer necessary. Right? You don't have to apply cost effort in generating bodhicitta. So if you've entered into the Mahayana path of accumulation, and the first part is the small part, it is possible for the mind of enlightenment to decline when you're still at this phase, the initial phase of the path of accumulation. So Geshe-la spoke of a situation that might occur. It might be that you will find someone that is really persuasive. They will convince you that you're better off working for your own welfare. It's much easier to be liberated from samsara. It's going to be much quicker if you do it for yourself. So why not opt out for the easy option, right? So they might be really persuasive. And at this point in time, when you're in the small part of the path of accumulation, it could still happen that you decide to relinquish it and then accomplish your own welfare alone. But once you pass the small part of the path of accumulation. Once you reach the medium, great, and so forth, it will not occur, right? It is guaranteed that you will continue to go from strength to strength. The mind of enlightenment will go from strength to strength, and you will not abandon it. Chukila?
In terms of no longer falling to lower realm, so that's in terms of brightening of past karma then, because it's no forbearance or patience level of evolution.
So in terms of no longer falling to the lower realms, to begin with, when you attain the path of seeing, it is said that the door to the lower realm is closed, right? So you've officially closed it. You will no longer take a lower realm, a miserable realm rebirth under the power of karma and afflictions. But it is said that, I can't remember, I think that even before that, with forbearance, of the forbearance part of the path of accumulation, I think that it could not occur. I have to look at it. Sorry?
In this presentation.
So this is what it says in the presentation. Okay. But I mean, it is definitely, so in that sense, you can say that you have the confidence of the forbearance, that you will no longer take a miserable realm rebirth, but you close the door definitely when you hit the path of seeing. All right. So Jen had a question in the morning. We did cover it in the discussion, but here it is. The difference between the aspiring and engaging mind of enlightenment is between aspiring to go and going, practicing the 6 perfections, taking up the Bodhisattva vows, etc. That's correct. The difference between the relative and ultimate mind of enlightenment is that the ultimate mind of enlightenment is qualified by the perceptual realization of emptiness. Is that correct? All right. So let's go into what the conventional and ultimate minds of enlightenment are. To begin with, in order to just deal first of all with Jen's question, I'm going to go to the ultimate mind of enlightenment because that's easier. To narrow it down, the ultimate mind of enlightenment is a perceptual realization of emptiness in the mind stream of an Arya Mahayanist. Right? So what do you need to have in order to have the ultimate mind of enlightenment? The first feature of the ultimate mind of enlightenment, it is a perceptual realization of emptiness. It is a perceptual realization of emptiness. That's the first feature. The second feature is that it has to be in the mind stream of an Arya Mahayanist, which means, for example, Hearers in Solitude realizes they can realize emptiness. Hearers in Solitude realizes on the path of seeing, on the path of meditation, they have a perceptual realization of emptiness, but they are not Mahayanist. Their perceptual realization of emptiness is not the ultimate mind of enlightenment, because the ultimate mind of enlightenment can exist only for Arya Mahayanists. Also, Hearers in Solitude realize they're Arhats. They have attained the state of liberation. They have a perceptual realization of emptiness, but they're not Mahayanists. They're Hinayana Arhats. So the ultimate mind of enlightenment has the feature that it can only exist in the mind stream of Mahayanist, right? So 2 features, a perceptual realization of emptiness, and it exists in the mind stream of an Arya Mahayanist. So we can go a step back, right? Let's go a step back. In order to attain the state of liberation, you need method and wisdom, right? Liberation, in order to attain the state of liberation, you need the 2 wings of method and wisdom. What is the method side? For those people at home, this is also a question for you guys. What is the method for attaining the state of liberation? Sorry? No, I'm speaking about liberation, not enlightenment, right? Just for attaining the state of liberation, what is the method? Yeah, just so I'll repeat the question. For attaining the state of liberation, we have method and wisdom. What is the method aspect for attaining the state of liberation? The main method for attaining the state of liberation is?
Would that be calm abiding and special insight?
No.
Merge from sight.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Renunciation, definite emergence. So the main method for attaining the state of liberation is renunciation. The wisdom side is, I think that many of you have referred to that. It is wisdom realizing emptiness. More specific, you can even make it more specific. You don't have to. You can make it more specific in saying a perceptual realization of emptiness, but in general, you can say a realization of emptiness. So you combine both method and wisdom in order to attain the state of liberation. The main method is the determination to live cyclic existence combined with a realization of emptiness, a realization of selflessness. So that's for liberation. Hold on to it, right? Method and wisdom are combined together for liberation. Now we're going to look at method and wisdom for the state of enlightenment. What is the main method that you need to develop in order to attain the state of enlightenment? Also, you guys at home, you can click. What is the main method for attaining the state of enlightenment? Lynn says bodhicitta, and she has hit the jackpot. She is correct. She was the first one, so she gets the gold medal. Chris, you get only silver. So, so the main method for attaining the state of enlightenment is conventional bodhicitta. So we can say bodhicitta, but we refer to conventional mind of enlightenment. The conventional mind of enlightenment, which means the mind that has the two aspirations, the main mind that is intent on attaining the state of complete and perfect enlightenment for the welfare of others, in order to liberate sentient beings from suffering. So this is the main method for attaining the state of enlightenment. What is the wisdom side? The wisdom side is, again, wisdom realizing emptiness, but you can also say the ultimate mind of enlightenment. So then when you look at the method and the wisdom that are combined together in order to attain the state of enlightenment, the method is the conventional mind of enlightenment. The wisdom is the ultimate mind of enlightenment. So combining these two, the conventional minds and the ultimate mind, you have a unification of method and wisdom. So I'll go back to Jane's original question. She asked, is the difference between relative and ultimate mind of enlightenment is that the ultimate mind of enlightenment is qualified by the perceptual realization of emptiness. So the answer is no. Ultimate mind of enlightenment is in itself a perceptual realization of emptiness. It's not qualified by it. It in itself is a perceptual realization of emptiness, and it has to be in the mind stream of a Mahayana Arya. So who is a Mahayana Arya? A Mahayana Arya, if we go back to that chart again, so we have the 5 Mahayana paths. We have here the path of accumulation, then the path of preparation. A Mahayana Arya is a person that attains the path of seeing, or the path of meditation, or even better, they became Buddha. All right, so those 3 types of person: a Mahayanist on the path of seeing, a Mahayanist on the path of accumulation, or a Mahayanist that is a Buddha on the path of normal learning. All of them are Mahayana Arya, right? So if you're a person that is a Mahayanist and you're on the path of seeing, you have the ultimate mind of enlightenment in your mind stream. If you're on a path of meditation, you have the ultimate mind of enlightenment in your mind stream. If you're a Buddha, you have the ultimate mind of enlightenment in your mind stream. If you're not one of those three persons, you haven't got the ultimate mind of enlightenment, right? So it can only be for Mahayanists on the path of seeing, on the path of meditation, or for Arya Buddhas. When we say Arya Buddhas, we mean Buddhas that are persons, a person that is Buddha. All right, so that's, I think, maybe clearing some doubts with respect to what the ultimate mind of enlightenment is. Any questions before I move on to the conventional mind of enlightenment?
With the conventional bodhicitta,
Yeah.
has the two aspirations: complete enlightenment and enlightenment for the welfare of others.
Yeah.
So this is yeah, conventional. Yeah. So this is what we were talking about yesterday: engaged and inspiring. That's something different.
Now, engaging bodhicitta and inspiring bodhicitta, both of them are conventional bodhicittas. Right? So what is conventional bodhicitta? So yesterday, was it yesterday or the day before, we spoke about the mind that possesses the two aspirations. Yesterday, all right. The mind that possesses the two aspirations. The first aspiration is called the causal aspiration. And it is a cause for bodhicitta. It is compassion, great compassion, right? The causal aspiration, great compassion for the welfare of others, which means in order to liberate sentient beings from suffering. So that's a compassionate aspiration. That's the cause for bodhicitta. Then we have the accompanying aspiration. And the accompanying aspiration focuses on great enlightenment. It wants to attain complete and perfect enlightenment. And it accompanies a main mind, and the main mind is called bodhicitta.
Sorry, say that again.
So the aspiration that accompanies the mind of enlightenment is the aspiration that is focused on complete enlightenment. It seeks complete enlightenment. It is congruent with the main mind, and the main mind is bodhicitta.
What about the Bodhisattva vows?
No, I'm just speaking about conventional bodhicitta, what conventional bodhicitta is.
Which is just the aspiration of bodhicitta.
No, I'm just speaking about bodhicitta, conventional bodhicitta. I'm not speaking about aspirational or engaging, just conventional bodhicitta. So conventional bodhicitta is a mind that possesses the two aspirations.
Which I just said. I've got it.
Yeah, so the two aspirations, the causal aspiration, it is compassion. And then the second is the accompanying aspiration. It focuses on great enlightenment. So I'm going to go back to this.
Hudson, can you please put a copy of that Bodhisattva Path in our Dropbox?
I can, for a small price, I can do whatever you ask me to.
I thought so.
Yeah, I'm just joking. Definitely I can. All right. So what did I want to do? The conventional mind of enlightenment. Sorry, before that. All right. I wanted to look at the mental factor aspiration. We said that the mind of enlightenment is the mind that possesses the two aspirations. The description of aspiration that is taken from the textual mind and mental factor, it says that it observes a contemplated phenomenon and it seeks it, it wants it, it aspires for it, it wishes for it. This is the description of aspiration, right? So we said that conventional bodhicitta is the mind that has two aspirations. To begin with, the causal aspiration, compassion. So if it is a mental factor aspiration, it observes something and it wants it. So what does compassion want? It wants others to be happy. No, it wants others to be happy, more precisely, if it's compassion, just to keep freedom from suffering. So it observes, you can say that it observes sentient beings' freedom from suffering. Suffering sentient beings' freedom from suffering. You can put it in different ways, right? It observes sentient being tormented by suffering, and it seeks the freedom from suffering. You can say it in different ways. So I'll put it again on the board. The mental factor aspiration, it observes a contemplated phenomenon and it seeks it. So you've meditated on this, let's say, in a few of the sevenfold cause and effect person instruction steps. You've recognized sentient beings as being your mothers. You have recognized their kindness. You thought of the kindness. You developed the wish to repay the kindness. You've meditated on this affectionate love to them. And then through an analytical meditation in which you have thought about the suffering of sentient beings, you then develop the wish for them to be free from suffering, right? So you have aspiration. May they be free from suffering. It seeks the freedom from suffering. That's the first aspiration. It's a mental factor, and it accompanies the main mind. It's not bodhicitta yet, but it's a mental factor. It accompanies the main mind. So you continue with the development of compassion. At some point, your compassion goes so strong that you think, I will liberate them from suffering. That's the wholehearted resolve, right? So the wholehearted resolve, you can say, you can think that it seeks the freedom from suffering for sentient beings that will be enacted by yourself. I will liberate them from suffering, right? So it observes a contemplated object and it seeks it. I will free sentient beings, suffering sentient beings from suffering. And then you recognize that you haven't got the ability to do it at the present. Only if you were to become a Buddha, you'll have the knowledge of the dispositions of each and every living being. So you think, in order to liberate all sentient beings from suffering, I have to become a Buddha. This is what I will do. So you have, at this point, you have developed the accompanying aspiration. So you've developed an aspiration that seeks complete enlightenment. Complete enlightenment is Buddhahood, right? So it observes Buddhahood and it seeks it. It accompanies the main mind. It is a mental factor aspiration. It focuses on complete enlightenment. It seeks it. It accompanies the main mind. And the main mind is called bodhicitta. So,
and why do we need to know this? The
What?
mental factor and the accompanying mental factor.
Because when you look at a description of bodhicitta as that you find in scripture, and this is the definition that we'll put on the screen in a few minutes, you see that kind of, it mentioned it specifically. So in order to understand what it means, then you need to understand what the mental factor aspiration is, how it functions, but it's not just understanding the definition. I mean, the definitions are methods for us to develop a practice. So if we, if you listen to teachings on, sorry?
It's so Tibetan.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but the thing is that in general, when you listen to teachings, when teachings are given in a general sense, we speak a lot about developing compassion, developing bodhicitta and so forth. And then we're set off to do our practice. Not always a practice is developed enough. Not always it is sharp enough. It's good to start with a general explanation. But then if you want your practice to be really effective, and then also to go to deeper and deeper levels, and need to gain momentum, then you need to know all the in and outs of what factors in your mind you need to train. It's not to say that that's the only way that you can go about and do it, but I think that once you understand exactly what part of your mind you need to train, what aspiration you need to develop, how do you know, what is the observation of complete enlightenment and so forth, then it informs your practice. It gives you a better understanding of what you need to do and what you don't need to do. So that's the whole purpose of it. I think that when you look at the way that the Geshes study, you know, they study this topic, for example, this definition of bodhicitta, the mind generation, is taken from Maitreya's Ornament for Clear Realization. Particularly, there is a text called 70 Topics, written by Jitsumpa, which is a summation of the ornament, and you find such a definition in that text. And when you take it up and you refer to the greater text, to the Ornament for Clear Realization, which is studied over 7, 8, or 9 years, you spend, I think, the first year in just debating bodhicitta, you know, or actually, no, not the first year debating bodhicitta. It's probably debate the kind of the homage to the text in the first year. Yeah. I mean, there's so much material in that.
But if you have a look at Lama Tsongkhapa's 3 volumes, over half of the first volume is just on it. Critical.
Yeah.
Critical.
So Chris, this is for you. So we have the aspiration that accompanies the mind of enlightenment. It accompanies the main mind, that is the mind of enlightenment, but it focuses on enlightenment. The mind of enlightenment in general, if you were to describe it in general, it is a mind that wishes for complete enlightenment for the sake of others. More specific, it is a main mind that has 2 aspirations. The one that bears similarities with it is the accompanying aspiration. The aspiration that was there before the generation of the mind of enlightenment was a compassionate aspiration. That's the cause of the mind of enlightenment, right? So the cause is compassion, the wish for sentient beings to be free from suffering, and even stronger, the wish for me to liberate sentient beings from suffering by myself alone.
Still aspiring, though, not engaged.
I'm just,
You're just talking about conventional.
yeah, just conventional bodhicitta. This definition of conventional bodhicitta will apply to both engaging and aspiring mind of enlightenment. It is a definition of conventional bodhicitta.
So when we do that more extensive, the 4 immeasurables,
Yeah.
that is, you know, they all seem to be free from the may this be the case, I will cause this to be the case, please Guru Deity, bless me, don't do this. That is, we're all just talking about conventional bodhicitta there.
Well, the 4 immeasurables, you can't say that the 4 immeasurables are conventional bodhicitta. That means for the 4 immeasurables are ways of making your conventional bodhicitta become stronger and stronger.
Yes.
So, and I'm saying that because also Hinayanis meditate on the 4 immeasurables. You know, so even though Hinayanis meditate on the 4 immeasurables, you cannot say that they develop bodhicitta. So you develop bodhicitta, and then you use the 4 immeasurables in order to make bodhicitta become stronger and stronger, right? So include within that, may all sentient beings have happiness in its causes. And then to make it kind of, in some sense, to tailor it, particularly for Mahayanis, the 4, maybe you can say the 4 Mahayana immeasurables. May all sentient beings have happiness in its causes. I will make them have happiness in its causes. Please, Guru, to bless me to be able to do so.
That's what makes it Mahayana.
Yeah.
And so at that point, does that make it engaged bodhicitta, or is it still just aspiring bodhicitta?
Well, it depends on whether you have.
And the bodhisattva vows.
Well, first of all, it depends on whether you have the bodhisattva vow, but also it depends on whether, when you make that aspiration, I will freedom from suffering. Are you practicing the conduct at this point in time? You know, are you being generous? You know, it's like you have to look at it particularly from the viewpoint of what you're doing at the present, if it's explicitly qualified by the practice of the conduct. But having said that, you know, Geshe-la referred today to this definition of being explicitly qualified by the practice of the conduct. So we have these two definitions. It is a conventional mind of enlightenment, right? So Dechen, it is conventional mind of enlightenment. What is a conventional mind of enlightenment? It is the mind that has the two aspirations, right? So you asked me, you know, previously you asked, but is the mind that has the two aspiration, is it engaging or is it aspiring? Well, so the first part of this definition that it has to be a conventional mind of enlightenment. It is a mind that has the two aspirations. On top of that, this definition says that if it is not explicitly qualified by the practice of the conduct, it is the aspiring mind of enlightenment. Now, the second definition of the engaging mind of enlightenment states, first of all, that it has to be a conventional mind of enlightenment, which means that it is a mind that has two aspirations to begin with. Now, if it explicitly qualifies the practice of the conduct, which means that at the point in which the mind of enlightenment is manifest strongly in your mind, and you're giving, you know, you're practicing generosity, you're giving, or you got your ethics, you're being patient in a sense that it is a mind that is undisturbed, right? You do not allow disturbance to arise in your mind. Or you have joyous effort, you rejoice in virtue, or you have nature of the mind of absorption. At that point, that mind of enlightenment, if you have the engaging vow in your mind stream, is the engaged mind of enlightenment, engaging mind of enlightenment.
Thank you for that.
No worries. So,
That was different to presentation this morning.
yeah, so Geshe-la in his presentation in the morning said that some give this definition. Actually, I think that most give this definition. I think that probably is honest in his commentary. I think that probably just to make it easy, said that if you have the, if you've taken the engaging vow from this point onward, you have the engaging mind of enlightenment. It's a different presentation. If you look actually at Khenpo Kunpel's commentary, you see that actually the debate is even greater. He says that this master say this, the other master say this. You know, this group of masters yet have a different position. So he presents 3 or 4 different positions with respect to the distinction between aspiring and engaging mind of enlightenment.
This is where we finished off yesterday.
Yeah.
Because His Holiness came from another monastery.
Yeah, so it's no. So I said yesterday that I think that His Holiness came from Drepung, or sorry, that he follows the view of Drepung. And on the way up to my room, I thought myself, the reason that I thought about it was because his main tutor was Ling Rinpoche, who comes from Drepung Monastery.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think that Children Rinpoche also came from Drepung. Chijang, the other tutor. At least Ling Rinpoche comes from Drepung, so that's why I made that assumption that it follows the His Holiness would follow mainly the view of Drepung Rosaling. All right, so Chris says, does it definitely have 2 aspirations at the same time? No, it definitely does not have 2 aspirations at the same time. Chris, only 1 aspiration, no 2 aspirations at the same time, because this is not possible. The first aspiration is the causal aspiration. It is before bodhicitta. When bodhicitta is there, there is only accompanying aspiration that is concordant with it. Nail it down, Chris. Only 1 aspiration, no 2, that is together with the mind of enlightenment. So, does it definitely have 2 aspirations at the same time? No. 2 mental factors at the same time. It cannot have 2 aspirations at the same time. One of them is causal, so it's beforehand. Only the other one is accompanying it. Bingo. Yeah, that's good, Chris. Thank you. So we said, so when I said the mind of enlightenment is the mind that has the 2 aspirations, this is the most abridged version of the definition of the mind of enlightenment. But when you look at a common text that gives you the definition, you work with more than that. So we have two sources for the definition of the mind of enlightenment that gives you a much greater scope for defining it. One of them is the way that Gyatso Dhamma Rinchen presented it in his commentary. So I'll put it on the screen. So what we have in a commentary is the definition of the conventional mind of enlightenment, according to the commentary of Gyatso Dhamma Rinchen. It is a main mind, right? So it's specified particularly. It's not a mental factor. It is a main mind that is congruent with aspiration that seeks complete enlightenment. Now, to be congruent means that it shares similarities with the aspiration. So the aspiration seeks the state of complete enlightenment. The main mind will also seek the state of complete enlightenment. So that's the accompanying aspiration. This part indicates that, or sorry, I would say this part, it is congruent with the aspiration that seeks complete and perfect enlightenment. That's the accompanying aspiration. The second part of the third part of the definition, sorry, would be for the sake of others. Now, for the sake of others indicates the causal aspiration. So this is an expansion on the mind that has the two aspiration, right? So in that way, when you look at Gyatso Dhamma Rinchen way of explaining what it is, you can say that the definition of conventional bodhicitta has three parts. You have to tick 3 boxes in order for it to be conventional bodhicitta. The first box is that it is a main mind, right? That's the first attribute. It is a main mind. The second attribute, so I'll write here for the second being, for the time being, 1, that's the first part of the definition. It is a main mind. 2, the second part, it is congruent with the aspiration that seeks complete and perfect enlightenment. And the third part, for the sake of others, that indicates compassion, the causal aspiration. So if a consciousness has those 3 features, you can say that it is a conventional mind of enlightenment. So any questions?
I mean, there's not a question, it's an observation. I mean, that is so Tibetan in that, you know, the definition is then divided up into attributes.
I sense a resistance in the force.
It's more an observation.
It's more an observation.
That I guess I have struggled with for many, many years.
Well, and this struggle will continue because there is some more coming.
It goes on and
Yeah.
on and on. That's right.
Yeah, the struggle will continue. There is more coming because, yeah.
It's futile.
I mean, yeah, you know, this is the way that they teach. This is the way that we study. If you can beat them, join them.
It's actually really good because you really unpack it. So there's no question.
Yeah.
You get the point across.
Like for the first 15 years of
Yeah.
my practicing as sadhana, that always referred to the causal and resultant, whatever. I read causal as casual. And one day it hit, oh my God, it's not casual at all, it's causal. So that was a big shit.
That was the point of turn in your practice, isn't it?
It did. It was a big shit that, oh,
All right.
it's not casual at all. I was thick.
Yeah. So Kate said that sometimes it seems clear and then in the next moment not clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Kate. But I think that this is kind of This is why we repeat it again and again. We talk about it again and again. As I said kind of a while ago, it's like learning a new language and also learning how to formulate definitions, how to break them into parts. The way that Geshe study is, I'm going to show you the real definition that they work with, right? So this is just a definition that was taken from Geta Dhammarin's text. What they deal with when they study the conventional mind of enlightenment in the ornament of clear realization, according to Jetsun Chuki Gyaltsen, that is the main manual writers of Seraja Monastery, this is the definition. So it is an exalted great vehicle, main mental cognition, differentiated by tap as the path that is the entry to the great vehicle path, and concordant with the aspiration focusing on complete enlightenment for the purpose of others as its aid. So this is even more elaborate. So if I were to break that into different parts, I would say that that's the first part. It is the exalted great vehicle, main mental cognition. No, that's one feature. It is by type. That's the second feature. By type, it is the path that is the entry to the great vehicle path. The third feature would be that it is concordant or congruent with the aspiration focusing on complete enlightenment. And then for the purpose of others as its aid. So the point in dividing definitions into, sorry, I wrote twice too. The point of dividing definitions into different parts is to, you first of all divide it into parts, and then you start having a debate, raising doubt with respect to whether you need all those parts to be absolutely convinced that this is the mind of enlightenment. So for example, you would say, if you look at this definition, let's look at the most simple definition, Geta Dhammarinchen. A main mind, it is congruent with the aspiration that seeks complete and perfect enlightenment, and it is for the sake of others. So in order to understand what bodhicitta is, you start working with this definition. You wonder, if let's say that I leave out the third part of this definition, I will say that I will take the definition to be that it is a main mind, and it is congruent with the aspiration that seeks complete and perfect enlightenment. I don't need the third part that indicates the compassionate aspiration for the welfare of others. What would be the implication of describing bodhicitta like that? Right? If you say that you don't need the accompanying aspiration, it is just the main mind. Yeah, so Mega is saying that if you leave out the third part of the definition, you could end up with saying that if you seek enlightenment for your own sake, if you wish for enlightenment, not for the sake of others, but for your own sake, that would be bodhicitta. Right? So it definitely needs to indicate also the compassionate attitude for the welfare of others. Now, the aspiration for sentient beings to be free from suffering. And then what would have happened if you missed out on this second part of the definition? So it's a main mind for the welfare of others. Right? So I'll put this definition again on the board. Yeah. So it's a main mind for the sake of others. You leave out the second part. Yeah. Yeah, it's a conventional non-bodhicitta mind. So for example, you could say that when you develop, if you leave out the second part of the definition, you can say that when you follow the sevenfold cause and effect personal instructions, you reach the fifth stage or the sixth stage. You develop compassion and you develop the wholehearted resolve. The definition would fit those stages. We could say that they are bodhicitta. If you don't specifically say that it has to be congruent with the aspiration that focuses on complete enlightenment. So that's the point of dividing the definition into different parts and seeing whether they're absolutely necessary. And when you do that, you start a debate with with another person, and you say that you take up this definition and say that this definition is incorrect. I come up with a new definition. It follows that the definition of bodhicitta is such and such, and your opponent in a debate needs to show you the fault in formulating the definition in this way. So you go back and forth, and through that you get better clarity with respect to what elements are needed for the definition of bodhicitta. So it's not that we just want to debate those different parts of the definition. We want in our mind to know what is absolutely necessary in order for bodhicitta to exist in our mind stream. That points out basically what we need to practice in order to give rise to it in our mind stream. But if we're absolutely sure about what it is, then we can make a practice become more effective. So there are a couple of points here. Smileys, but I think that Chris had a few engaging questions. So then what is engaging? I understand there's two aspirations now, but I'm confused to what engaging is. So if Chris, you're confused about engaging, go back to the file and read through the definition. Engaging is a conventional mind of enlightenment. What is a conventional mind of enlightenment? It is a mind that has a two aspiration. Conventional mind of enlightenment is a main mind that is congruent with aspiration that seeks complete and perfect enlightenment for the sake of others. That's a conventional mind of enlightenment. Going back to the engaging mind of enlightenment. So the first part of the definition says, 1, it is a conventional mind of enlightenment. 2, it explicitly qualifies the practice of the conduct. And 3, and is a continuum of one who is the engaging bodhisattva vow. All right, so if you're still confused about the engaging, go back to this definition, read through that and see if you understand the individual parts, whether you can then put them together. So Steve-O is also saying main minds are divided into physical main minds and the mental main mind. When we talk about the main mind congruent with the two aspiration, is that the main mind subsumed into mental main minds, or they're now a third category of main mind? So Steve, you're correct. So when we look at main minds, primary consciousnesses, there are 6 of them. There are 5 sense consciousnesses, or 5 sense primary consciousnesses, 5 sense primary minds, and 1 mental. The mind of enlightenment is only mental. All right, it is a mental primary consciousness. It is a mental main mind. In fact, Steve, if you look at the longer definition taken from Jetsun Chugi Gyaltsen, it specifically says that. It says it is an exalted great vehicle, main mental cognition, right? So it is a main mental consciousness, primary mental consciousness. Is that clear, Steve? Is that in the commentary? We have access to it. Yeah, so Chris, I put it on the Dropbox. So if you look at the Dropbox, I show you where it is. All right, so you go to the Dropbox. That's our folders. We have the folders of other materials, commentaries, etc. This it is. This is it. Bodhicitta definitions. Definitions. I think that that's a spelling mistake. Classifications and more. All right. So Steve is asking, that means that that means it's within us at the moment, just dormant. Well, first of all, we have mental consciousness now. Otherwise, it would have been pretty sad, right? So we have mental consciousness. We have active, manifest mental consciousness. But if you're asking whether we have bodhicitta at the moment, well, I think that each one of us have to look at our own mind. To begin with, when you look at bodhicitta in that description, that it has to be a mind that has a true aspiration, then you can check whether you have it in your own mind. Now, if you look at the full definition of bodhicitta, the full definition of bodhicitta also alludes to the point that it needs to be uncontrived. We're not going to, no, don't hold on to it now as definitely the case, but in general, when you speak about aspiring bodhicitta, engaging bodhicitta, and so forth, there is an underlying assumption that you have developed conventional bodhicitta to the point in which it became uncontrived. So if you're asking, is it within us at the moment? If you have developed uncontrived bodhicitta already, it is within you. It is dormant. Is it dormant? It is possible that it is dormant. It is possible that it is manifest. So for a consciousness to be manifest, it means that the person and the consciousness the person having that consciousness and the consciousness are operating or engaging as one. So I think I've mentioned it yesterday. So for example, suppose that I have anger in my mind stream. Anger is targeting a certain person, right? So suppose that I have anger focusing on Steve in my mind stream. If you asked, is it manifest? If anger at Steve and me as a person having anger at Steve are operating as one, which means that now I'm being angry with you, it means that anger is manifest. It could be that currently anger is not manifest, it's dormant. It doesn't mean that I don't have it. In a sense that, suppose that you did something that I did not like, I got angry with you, and then something distracted me, and anger, for the time being, is lying dormant. But it's enough for a certain condition to come to play, and anger will come up again, and then anger at Steve and the person, me, that is angry at Steve, will operate as one, right? That would be a manifestation of anger. So then, if you wonder, is bodhicitta within us at the moment, whether it is just dormant, could be that you have bodhicitta and it is dormant, in a sense that it could be that you have bodhicitta, but you got angry with another person. Now, so when anger is present, manifest, you cannot have bodhicitta manifest at the same time. Right? You cannot be angry with one person and wishing to harm that person, and at the same time have a manifest mind that wishes to become enlightened, to liberate that person from suffering. Right? So these two cannot exist together at the same time. All right, let's leave it here for now. So review questions will be sent today or tomorrow. So I think that, so I've made many of them already. So there's a long list of questions. Some of them are rather complicated. So, I mean, rather complicated, I mean that kind of, basically, I've asked questions about bodhicitta, there's, the aspirations and so forth. Don't be daunted, because if, go through those questions. If you don't understand certain points, bring them up in my tuts next week, bring up in discussions. The more discussion we have, the more questions we ask, the better we'll be able to understand them. So don't hold back, or hold back to a certain degree. All right, so I'll
It's
put
due on
the
Friday midnight, is it?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. See you tomorrow, or maybe tonight. We have teachings tonight, so if you're free, come along. Just a second. All right. Gewadi Nyududa Lama Sange Druvyone Roachikya Malupa De Salagopa Sho Chanchu Sancho Rinpoche Makepa Nakegu Devanyamba Mepaya Gone Gondo Pewa Shokange Rawe Kowe Shinkandi Pendan Dewa Malu Joene Chenrese Wante Zigaso Shape Site Badu Te Gyuzi Janshin Jangun Gawe Tenzi Kyokten We Kunzo Doboze Choson Ko Wele Montudo Bada Sodoji Gondu Shapen Thank you.
Carlton.
Thank you. Thank you. See you later.
Thank you,
Thank you
Captain.
very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you. You want to-
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, if I do it again, I'll revisit the options.
So I have created. Manage your account.
Okay, so when all,
Yeah,
all the exam,